Hey everybody, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program RP-0. We are starting off by joining our JASPER 2 mission, which has now left the Jupiter Sphere of Influence on its way back to Earth. Yes, we are going to test a Jupiter atmospheric sample return from falling from Jupiter altitude back to Earth. And, well, I mean, hoping for the best. We do have several kilometers per second of delta V remaining on this spacecraft, which we intend to use all of it at some point eventually, but we do have a correction maneuver plotted to basically get us on course for Earth. I think it's just a very small correction initially, 12 or so meters per second, which will just run through about a day early, much to my despair, because really this means that we're just not going to hit it. And KSP can't really decide if there's going to be an interception there. So we'll try to move this maneuver a little later along in the flight path and just see what we can't figure out as far as adjusting our inclination such that we do actually encounter Earth. That is in a couple years, 785 days or so, and 235 meters per second. So it's still well within budget. That 469 meters per second you see displayed in the Mech Jeb window is not very accurate, as we have our two big side flotilla tanks still locked, and they do have quite a bit of fuel. I think we were sitting on something like 4 kilometers per second of delta V left in this spacecraft. So we should be able to bring the sample return portion home, which has another kilometer per second all on its own. But with that alarm plotted, it is now time for us to jump into the VAB, where I had some radical crazy ass idea to build a new interplanetary long-term vehicle, something that wouldn't have to dock to a space station in order to keep its crew alive while doing some orbital research, and then return all on its own without the need of a refueling mission. So the first step was reduce part count. I plan on using the Ubazor Welder mod to kind of simplify things and make more simplistic parts. That big collection of RTGs that we finished off with earlier was supposed to be a reactor, because I don't have their reactors in this install. So we need some way of simulating that, and I guess emulating it to make it work as if it were a reactor. The second step, I guess, or the second item on my itinerary, was to fab up a habitation module, since I also don't have rings that can spin to provide artificial gravity and keep our crew happy and healthy and at decent bone density throughout their journey. I wanted something that we could put in the cargo bay of a SKS Heavy spacecraft, in hopes that we could fund this entire thing by doing shuttle missions to build our new interplanetary spacecraft in orbit. We've abandoned our ring concept because none of it really fits in a bay. So there's that. And so we've gone with a very simple hab module. This will provide space for 20 Kerbals, I believe, with lots of room to spare. So if we have a crew of 3, which is our perspective crew allotment variable here, that should give them plenty of space to get things figured out. So the next step is to derive a tug that will do most of the docking responsibilities for modules that are to follow, including that reactor that we plotted out earlier. Although honestly, that one that we plotted out, once I moved it through Ubazor Welder, it did not work. It does not like the inside of the cargo bay attachment node thing, so we're going to have to revisit that and give it another pass, just to see if we can't do something a little better about it. So we've got our tug, our RCS, it's all built into the SKS Heavy cargo bay, and 172 days later, a very green crew would be lifting off from pad 42H with this experimental living module on its way to orbit. Now, we do not plan on doing our construction while rendezvoused to anything. It's pretty much just going to be a free-form construction, not attached to our resident low Earth orbit space station, Kawaii Potato Station, and more modules will follow in short order, hopefully. It really depends on recovery and turnaround times of our only remaining flight-worthy SKS Heavy. This one you see here, kind of struggling a little bit to keep its inclination with the moon, because at least we can keep our departure angle with the rest of the solar system on that flat of a plane. So we are way under tonnage. I think our HAB module comes at something like 12 tons. The tug itself probably adds another 20 or so, and we have a 90-ton capacity on this vehicle. So yeah, we're way under tonnage. Ascent should be pretty easy. There is booster and EFT engine separation. We're now running just on our 3 RS-25E engines, pushing us the rest of the way to orbit. We're only at about 2 kilometers per second, kind of angling in. I'm hoping I didn't have to tail stand this one, but I did have, I don't know, I recorded this a very long time ago. I think this was the from the last live stream I did in December or so. So yeah, this was my last captured footage of 2020. Good riddance. So yeah, after booster set, we're going to try to work down as much of this relative inclination as we can. There is our roll maneuver. Always exciting to see how much of our heading that we're going to lose when we kick it on over. But, you know, these things, well, they're part of flying this vehicle, I suppose. As part of flying it manually as opposed to having a computer do it for you, is that you get, you know, one control input at a time, generally speaking. So we're starting to really pick up speed now, and our time to apoapsis is falling pretty heavily. So this is the part where I have to tail stand it a little bit, build up that time to apogee just to make sure we have enough room to get ourselves into a good orbit. I was kind of aiming for a 250 by 250. That helps us complete these 3 Kerbal to low Earth orbit contracts, and we'll hopefully keep the money flowing, because while I think we're a little bit over $1 million, we have a Europa landing contract that we are inevitably going to fail very shortly, and that's going to take all of our money. Although I do have plans on just queuing up a bunch of rockets we don't need, because they can take our cash, but they can never take our rocket stable. Something along those lines anyway. So hopefully it will certainly not mean the end of the program or the end of the series by any far stretch, but I just know that our like 9th or 10th impending bankruptcy is swiftly approaching. It's very much on the horizon, and well, it'll make things suck for 15 or 20 minutes or so before we sell off a surplus of launch vehicles and then, well, move on with our lives. We just want to ask questions about who we're selling them to. So there was Miko. We are now officially in orbit, 292 by 238. Not too bad. There's EFT separation and cargo bay deployment. So we'll go ahead and get this shuttle in its flight configuration. The crew has to sit up here for another 10 days or so just to fulfill the 3 Kerbal to low Earth orbit contract. And I'll say, well, I opened the contract window, but then closed it very swiftly. So it looks like we do have a departure window from our crew to leave Mars orbit and return to Earth, which we'll jump over to that right now. This spacecraft originally ventured out here with a crew of 6 Kerbals, which is standard for the Chestnut spacecraft, but we'll be returning home with only 4, leaving 2 behind to make sure that we can keep our lab module at its full crew complement of 2, and cranking out science as fast as it can, because we're going to turn that straight into money. So Alyssa Senzvia, Laura Douglas, Diane Bowman, and Lee Lambert will be ending their 5-year mission and returning to Earth. Fingers crossed. Anyway, Dmitry Gorbachev tried to stow away and head back home because he's probably sick of all this nonsense, but they kicked him out and made him go reboard Harmonia Station before the spacecraft could make its ejection burn, which, yeah, we still have that glitch with the thruster there not wanting to fire while the solar panels are extended, but, you know, I think we're bulky enough we can manage this. About 2.2 kilometers per second ejection to put us back on course for Earth, according to Mech Jeb anyway, which is well within threshold, but we're still going to lean on the thrusters just a bit as we're burning our main engine, hopefully for the last time. And boom, there's Earth and our Earth encounter. We're going to try to dial it in just a little bit, but there. That is an impact trajectory, so we just need to correct that a little bit before we show up to make sure they don't burn up and die. So, yeah, that's going to do it for this one, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you all in the next one. So, until then, see you later.